Streets and Drainage, Mr. Heath.
Thank you, Mr. President. Streets and Drainage met this evening at 5:30. Bob Geller, Street Superintendent, gave his report. First on the agenda was the rock salt. He said we met our quota of 400 tons from the state, and we had about 750 total tons. And we could get an extra 10% or 75 tons if we needed it. Right now we have about 400 tons on hand. Second, Bob gave a estimate on from Jobs and Henderson on street paving. Estimate for doing Lincoln View Drive, which is a primary concern. Doing it from Hopewell to 30th Street would be at an estimate of $430,000. This is at about $87 to $88 a ton, figured on what was used to pave last year. They will put a leveling cost course on there that will cost about $100,000. Also, the Franklin Avenue, Bob mentioned, and that's a price of $238,000. Green Valley Drive, $165,000 with curbs and gutters replaced in there. We have about $575,000 on hand to do this. The Lincoln View Drive project will also include the striping, which should last for the duration of how long the asphalt will last. Bob said he had discussions with the mayor and Jobs to discuss what we will do on the paving projects, and he'll get back to the council. Under third item was a legislative request to purchase a new truck, a Ford F-550 with a dump bed and plow. We can also use it to tow the Durapatcher, and this purchase is approximately $80,000, and it will replace a Ford F-350. He brought up the fact that in the 90s we purchased 12 vehicles. In 2000 we replaced 4, and since 2010 we've replaced 2. The committee approved the legislative request and sent it on to the Finance Committee. They're checking out for the timing on the lights that are going to sit on 79, and ODOT will pick up the cost of doing these placing of the timing. With nothing else to report, we adjourned at 6:12 p.m. Bob, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Nothing, thanks.
That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Community Development Zoning, Mr. Henry.
Community Development will meet on March 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Mr. Roth, do you have anything to bring up tonight? No, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Parks, Recreation, and Davis Shea, Mrs. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. President. Parks, Recreation, and Davis Shea met this evening at 6:13. First item on the agenda was taking pool applications. Currently in the process of recruiting pool employees at local schools. Phil Mitchell and Charlie Kyle have been to several of the local schools. Turnout wasn't great overall, but there was a good turnout at Heath. Also of note is that minimum wage is up to $8.10 for the coming year. Second item, park test. 60 people took the test with 51 passing. They received 7 applicants, the top 7 from the civil service exam, interviewed those 7 applicants and selected 2. 1 declined due to pay, and they requested an additional 7 names and have started interviewing to fill the other vacancy. Next on the agenda, preparing for the opening of the pool. They had the opening meeting with Ann Clippinger and Rhonda Brown. Both will be returning this year. Ronnie and Phil Mitchell will return to assist with the opening as well. Number 5, other items. There was a question about our agendas not being updated on the website. We're going to be checking into that, and we will get back with them at a later date. Also, an inquiry about the amount of the bed tax for 2014. Auditor Morrow checked and reported back that it was $131,800. With nothing else, we adjourned at 6:36. Do you have anything to add, Bob?
Nothing.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Mr. Crable.
Planning Commission is scheduled to meet Thursday, February 26th at 7 p.m. Do we have an agenda?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Okay, anything else to add?
No, nothing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brings us to, we're done with committee reports, so if the department heads want to leave, go ahead and leave. I said that for John's benefit. I'm just kidding, John. Introduction of ordinances. Ordinance 7, 2015. An ordinance authorizing the appropriation of $5,000 within the general fund to fire training and registration from the Marathon Petroleum donation. Ordinance 7, 2015 will be held to a second reading. Ordinance 8, 2015. An ordinance authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Franklin Township, Lincoln County, Ohio, to provide fire and emergency medical protection from January 1, 2015 through December 31st, 2016. Ordinance 8, 2015 also be held to a second reading. Brings us to ordinance number 9, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 10.01.
Ordinance 9, 2015 be held to a second reading. Ordinance 10, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's adoption of Civil Service Rule 10.015.
Ordinance 10, 2015 be held to a second reading. Ordinance 11, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 10.02.
Ordinance 11, 2015 held to be a second reading. Ordinance 12, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's adoption of Civil Service Rule 10.031.
Ordinance 12, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 13, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 10.05.
Ordinance 13, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 14, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 10.06.
Ordinance 14, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 15, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 10.211.
Ordinance 15, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 16, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 10.212.
Ordinance 16, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 17, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 20.10.
Ordinance 17, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 18, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 30.20.
Ordinance 18, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 19, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 40.20.
Ordinance 19, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 20, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 40.44.
Ordinance 20-2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 21, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 40.45.
Ordinance 21, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 22, 2015.
That was that.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 40.50.
Ordinance 22-2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 23, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 60.20.
Ordinance 23, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 24, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 60.21.
Ordinance 24-2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 25, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 80.30.
Ordinance 25, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 26, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 80.41.
Ordinance 26, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 27, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 90.10.
Ordinance 27, 2015 held to a second reading. Ordinance 28, 2015.
An ordinance approving the Heath Civil Service Commission's modification of Civil Service Rule 90.12.
Ordinance 28, 2015 held to a second reading. That's all the introduction of ordinances, and I want to thank Deb for reading all that for me. Appreciate that. Ordinances on second reading. Ordinance 6, 2015. An ordinance authorizing the appropriation and transfer of $274,678.27 within the budget stabilization fund to the general fund to satisfy the goal of the $2 million carryover in the general fund.
Probably hold on to the room, so.
Someone want to make a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Yeah. Motion to approve ordinance, 6, 2015.
A motion and a second to adopt ordinance 6, 2015. Any comments or discussion? Seeing none, roll call. Hold on a second. Crable?
Yes.
Cole?
Yes.
Heffley?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Kelly, yes. Mara?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 6, 2015 has been adopted. That's all the ordinances on the second reading. Brings us to resolutions on the first reading. Resolution 2015-1, amended and reinstated resolution confirming the city's agreement to increase the pension pickup for eligible employees of the Heath Fire Department. Resolution number 2015-1 will be held to a second reading. Resolution on second reading, there are none. Brings us reports of city officials. Mayor Johnson's not here tonight, so we'll move to Auditor Morrow.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Auditor Morrison?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. Let's start with, Deb, you go first, Deb.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to welcome all of our guests, and I also want to send special wishes out to the good ones, because I'm sure they'll be watching this tape, and just let them know they're in my thoughts and prayers. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Henry.
Thank you for all you business. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Craig.
Welcome visitors, and ditto on Dwayne Dillon, thoughts and prayers.
Mr. Morrow.
Welcome visitors.
Mr. Heffley.
And welcome to all the visitors, and I'm still pulling for those Buckeyes up in there when I come through in another basketball game against those people up north on Sundays. And to Dwayne and Becky, my best and prayers with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Down below, let's start with Bob Geller.
Nothing.
Kim Geller. John Geller. John Groff. Chief Mason.
Nothing, sir, thank you.
Chief Huggins.
No, thank you.
Man, we're gonna go. I have nothing else to add tonight, so we'll move on. New business none, reading bids none, miscellaneous none.
German for German.
Seconds.
Motion second to adjourn, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say aye. That's almost record time.
400,000.
See, John, I got you out early.
All right.